Our tour begins in the entry hall. Ludwig II lived from 1845 to 1886. He assumed the Bavarian throne at the age of 18 when his father died. Ludwig's passion was building castles. He built 3 during his lifetime: Linderhof, Herrenchiemsee, and Neuschwanstein. Plans for a 4th castle, Falkenstein, were underway when he died. In addition to his obsession with building, Ludwig also had a passion for classical heroic German mythology, a taste he shared with the German opera composer Richard Wagner. Neuschwanstein is decorated throughout with themes from these stories, most of which directly relate to Wagner's operas. The paintings in this room are from the Siegfried saga. The closed door leads to the tower, which is not part of the tour. The king was making his way to this very door when he was arrested in 1886.
I wonder why Ludwig was going to the tower the night he was arrested.
You are now standing in the king's bedroom. The theme of the bedroom is Tristan and Isolde, the tragic love story retold in Wagner's opera. The opera was given its first performance in Munich in 1865, and a 20-year-old Ludwig attended. This is probably the most elaborate and expensive bedroom ever created. It took 14 woodcarvers 4.5 years to create this room. It was this kind of extravagance that bankrupted the king. In the years before his death, he found it increasingly difficult to find money from any source. The richly carved bed, with its canopy, resembles a Gothic building and its turrets. The bed's draperies were handmade by dozens of Bavarian seamstresses.
Did they have running water in 1886? Maybe Ludwig thought all this luxury would help him sleep.
Scenes from the opera Tristan and Isolde. This is Ludwig's private chapel. The king was a devout Catholic, as were all of the Wittelsbacher rulers. They supported the Roman Church even when other European countries were dominated by Protestantism.
It's a beautiful crucifix, ivory and gold.
The paintings above the altar depict St. Louis surrounded by the seraphim. An interesting side note. For a period of about a year, the Louis images in all 3 castles were ordered to be covered up with black cloth on the unfathomable whim of the king.
A king saint? I wonder if Ludwig pictured himself that way, or maybe he just wanted to be that way. The Black Madonna of Altadene. I wonder what her story is all about.
The stained glass window depicts St. Louis receiving the last sacraments. This is the king's living room. The walls are decorated with scenes from the Lohengrin saga. The king first saw Wagner's opera Lohengrin when he was 16, and it so affected him that he considered it a form of enlightenment. The tragedy of Lohengrin was his essential loneliness. This, too, was Ludwig's own fate. Ludwig withdrew more and more into his fantasy world of epic heroes and absolute monarchy, an ideal he was determined to create in his castles if he could not have it in his real life. He only wanted to be alone with his dreams, so much so that even his servants were kept at a distance and were not allowed to look at him.
What were you afraid they'd see?
The miracle of the Grail.
These linens look seriously expensive and seriously old. I'm surprised people don't sit in these chairs when the guard's not looking.
The swan motif is featured throughout the castle, but it is particularly prominent in this room. Both the swan and the lily were symbols Ludwig associated with himself. They represented his ideals of majesty and purity. The painting behind the swan shows Lohengrin's arrival.
More swans.
This is a reproduction of the grotto from the Tannhäuser saga. In such places, Ludwig could pretend he was one of his beloved mythic heroes. As the grotto personifies, the castles were solitary playgrounds built for Ludwig alone. He believed the masses were too coarse to appreciate fine art, and he seldom entertained guests. In fact, Ludwig had a standing order that upon his death, the castles were to be destroyed. Fortunately, the estate was in such debt that the castles were opened for paying tours only weeks after Ludwig's death. They haven't closed since. It is one of the great ironies of Ludwig's story that the castles that he was thought insane for building are now considered Bavaria's finest treasures. They have paid for their construction many times over.
I can almost picture Ludwig in here. I wonder what he really dreamt about in this room.
This is the king's study. Ludwig spent much time at his desk writing letters, drawing up plans for his projects, and studying his favorite authors. He loved poetry, history, and the classics. In later years, he also studied the occult. What affairs of state he did reluctantly attend to were generally attended to alone at his desk in writing. His reluctance to meet with his heads of state and perform the duties of the king were one of the reasons for the charges brought against him in 1886. But Ludwig dreamt of true kingship and a true monarchy, and the small powers left to him after Bavaria's succeeded power to Prussia only incited his disdain and frustration. The study paintings depict scenes from the Tannhäuser saga in the Wartburg castle.
I wonder why he was studying the occult before he died. I doubt there's anything left in there now. Besides, the guard would kill me if I touched it.
This is the final room of our tour, the Singers' Hall. It was modeled after the Singers' Hall of the Wartburg Castle, where minstrel competitions were held in the 13th century. The hall was built for small private concerts, but Ludwig himself never gave one here. It is said that during the last few years of Wagner's life, he came to Neuschwanstein frequently and performed for the king alone in this room. The hall is probably best known for its enigmatic wolf paintings. The original paintings were from the Parsifal saga, but in 1882, Ludwig had them replaced, supplying the description and titles of the new paintings himself. While all the other rooms in the castle show scenes from Wagner's operas, the scenes in this room are not from any opera that anyone can identify. It is yet another of the many mysteries associated with the life of the fairy tale king.
Why would Ludwig have wolf paintings in his castle?
Engelhart and the Blacksmith. Engelhart courts Hildegunde. The hunters track down Engelhart and Hildegunde. Hildegunde's imprisonment. the wedding feast of Hildegunde and the Baron. The death of Engelhard. Ludwig's childhood castle, Neuschwanstein, is visible from the lookout in the Singers' Hall.
Nice view of the Alps.